You're listening to The Real Short Box, a comic book podcast made for geeks by geeks.
Congrats to the guys at The Real Short Box on 200 episodes. That's crazy. That's amazing. Congratulations, you guys.
Hey, this is Janet Lee Rodriguez. I want to say congrats to The Real Short Box on their 200th episode.
Damn! 200 episodes?
Wait. You're telling me there's 200 episodes of The Real Short Box?
Hey everybody, this is Josh from Splattered Frog Brewing. I just wanted to congratulate Donald and The Real Short Box on its 200th episode.
Hey guys, this is Julio from We Could Be Heroes Comics. Just want to congratulate The Real Short Box on achieving the milestone of 200 episodes. Hell of an accomplishment, guys.
Congratulations on your 200th episode. 200 is a divine number, and The Real Short Box is a divine podcast.
Congratulations, guys. Half's Hot Sauce is proud of you, and I tune in regularly.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in and listening to The Real Short Box. I mean, my God, 200 episodes. We're so overwhelmed with the response that we got from people, just, with the congratulations and the well wishes and stuff. Thank you so much, everybody, that's reached out to us for this 200th episode. Shocktober special podcast that we're doing right now. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it very much.
Unbelievable this is, brothers. Unbelievable. 4 years and 9 months. I remember when we recorded the very first episode, and we've come a long way, fellas. We had 100 subscribers at first, and now we're getting close to 2,000 before you know. We're getting close to 2,000 subscribers. This is amazing. I mean, this has been a journey. I'm so honored to be with Jared. Jared, the defender of the common geek, the food killer of the anti-mask wearers, and of course, the president and CEO of the Black Adam fan club, sir. It is an honor to have you here once again.
Well, it's great to be back. I mean, I'm honored. When I think of 200, the only thing I can compare this to, and I think you guys would agree with me, is Avengers 200. Where it's a Miss Marvel story where she gives birth to her son, who I think got her pregnant with himself, and I think that's kind of what, if you were going to explain how I feel right now, that's how I feel, and I don't want to go into any more detail about that because then I would get confused.
Yeah, a lot of butt stuff,
but a lot of butt stuff, you down, of course,
but it feels so right. It feels right.
And you, of course, you, Donald, the Earl of Herbal Teas, the bluest of Blue Beetles, the air boy of the Ohio State. I mean, you have led the charge. You were one of the people, along with Jared, on that one special night, came up with the whole idea for the Real Short Box. Could you believe we reached 200 episodes?
I mean, it's hard to believe, to be honest. It's really hard to keep a podcast going in general, but to do it for 200 episodes for going on 5 years. I mean, that's kind of amazing if you think about it. And I'm so blessed to have worked with the two of you, and with Kim, who stepped up and really stepped in to help us out for a while, and Darren, who stepped up and has been part of the podcast, and just all the guests that we've had over the years. Some really fun guests, and our fans, people like Hakeem, that and Evan and those boys, Ricky and them that really and Sammy and Bonnie,
Professor Chris Turner,
Maria and who've really been wonderful fans, and Chris Turner, yes, who said, I love this so much. I want to be on as many times as I can be. If you need a guest, at any time, you let me know and I'm there. And to have that, it's just I'm so blessed, and I really appreciate everyone and everything that we've had. Our sponsors, over the years, Spiro's Heroes, We Can Be Heroes, comic books,
Splattered Frog
Brewing Company, Half's Hot Sauce, wonderful sponsors that we've had over the years, and all the people, and my wonderfully supportive parents that are pretty much on every podcast.
They've been wonderful.
Yeah, so thank you guys again. We're here for the month of Shocktober. Kevin, you really didn't introduce yourself, did you? So go ahead.
Oh, yes, that's right. I forgot to say that. I am the Grand Master of the Jedi and the Vulcan arts, Dr. Kevin. It is wonderful to be here. And I want to, second what you said, Donald. It's been a blessing to be a part of this. Jarrett and you and myself, we have a very special chemistry when we come together to record a pod. It's just something special. I was re-listening to some of the old ones from like 4 years ago, and I'm like, man, we got something going here. It's magic. At first, I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into, but once we got that flow going and just three friends just talking it out, it's beautiful, man. It's really beautiful. Because I listen to other pods out there, and it's just like, woo, there's a lack of chemistry, a lack of charisma, a lack of passion. But with you guys, it's all passion.
Yep.
And I think it all comes down to, I believe, is that we all have a genuine love for comic books, most specifically, but for, pop culture, geek culture, whatever the hell you want to call it. We all have it's in our DNA. It's our genetic makeup of who we are.
We live and breathe this stuff, Jared. We live and breathe this stuff, man.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yep. And we always have this ability to pivot. Like, particularly, I know Jarrett and I oftentimes will talk about this, that, we'll be after first appearances for a while. And then it's like, oh, man, I want to go after, these random characters and these random stories. And then it's like, oh, this cartoon book looks really cool. It's not worth anything, but I still want it. And, you with your Bob Big Boy's obsession, and
I'm looking at him right now. I got my whole setup of the comics you got me.
Nice.
Got my Pop figure there. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And your personal channel.
By the way, if anybody ever gets a Bob's Big Boy comic book, one of the best parts is these were comic books that were given out at the restaurant in Burbank, and I think I would imagine the other locations, but you could write in letters. So kids would write in letters, and these comics go back, I don't know, maybe to the 60s, and they did not edit these letters at all. So they're fucking great. Like, one kid will be like, my sister beats me up. What do I do? And I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry your sister beats you up. I'm glad you love our cheeseburgers. Please come back. They're so great. Like, oh my God. Yeah, just for those alone.
My brother's friend touched me inappropriately. Like, whoa.
Yeah, and they wouldn't edit it. They'd just be like, look, we only got so many. We have to put them in. So we need our letters.
Well, our French fries will touch your soul. So
exactly.
Yeah, quite literally. Wow.
You know what won't hurt you? Our double cheeseburger. Come get a double decker of Bob's Big Boy.
That'll make you feel better, little Billy.
Yeah. So we're in the month of October here. It's Shocktober. It's basically the tail end of the month. It's like really we're just tipping into actual Halloween, the day of Halloween. We're tipping into it in just a few days here, and I'm super stoked for it this year because it just feels right. We had some really cool like fall days in September near the end, which was super exciting. We've had a few other like cool temperature days and stuff, and this is in Los Angeles, by the way, so it's just been super nice. And really, I haven't felt like this in a long time as far as like really enjoying the fall and the Halloween time coming. And I think I've appreciated it more, particularly because of the pandemic and what we've all gone through. And I think that should make everybody appreciate things a little more, I would imagine. But
absolutely,
this is a special Halloween, so I want to talk a little bit about Halloween comics and Halloween movies and things like that. Just what makes you feel Halloween? For example, for me, it's that crisp autumn air. It's the pumpkin spice everything at the store.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fall beer selections that you get from Sam Adams Brewery. It's scented candles with cinnamon, or there's brooms that you get that you can hang up. That's just
got two of those. Two of them. Yep.
Well, for me, it's that John Carpenter song. That gets me in the Halloween mood.
And is it just me? And I've noticed a lot of people have done this, and I am 100% for it, 110% for it. But as you said, we're just about to get into October, but I started technically with the holiday season, I think, last week. And and I kind of started doing that with Thanksgiving to Christmas too. I'm like, I don't even care anymore. Like, if I can celebrate like a cool holiday longer and it makes me happy, God bless it. And Halloween especially, I've already busted out Nightmare Before Christmas. It's already happening. Like, it's happening, people.
Yeah, definitely in September it was the same way for me. I was basically, what I was doing was already pre-decorating and enjoying it. Like, a lot of people, particularly this year, are doing that exact same thing. They're like, September is now pre-Halloween. Like,
exactly.
You're right.
Any holiday in September has now become the Thanksgiving of holidays. It's
You're right. Universal Studios already, in September, remember they were already had the Halloween stuff going. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Disney was pumping it. Already got the monster cereals going at Target. So, yeah, it's on. I've already had a whole box of Count Chocula. So, yeah, it's happened.
Nice. Yeah, this fall spirit, I think, hits us all. And with that comes the Halloween comic books. And I always look forward to, now it doesn't happen every year, but most years DC does a Halloween special. And in fact, if I could find it, I think I have one here. Yep, I've got it right here. Let me get it.
Oh, going into the archives.
There we go. I got it. It's called A Very DC Halloween. Now, I picked this up last year, and I've read some of it last year, and then I didn't read the rest of it because DC and Marvel and stuff, they don't put it out super early all the time. Sometimes it comes like right before Halloween. And I wanted to make sure I had some stuff to read, some stories and some fun ideas and stuff. So, I've got some DC shorts in here. I think, let's see how many stories it has. This is a trade paperback, and it wasn't originally published as anything else. It's like an original trade.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So if you look at the, let's see if it tells me where the stories are or what they are. I don't think it states it at the beginning. I don't think it states it at the end. But there's at least probably like 10 to 15 short stories in here.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's super fun. We've got Solomon Grundy in a story. We've got Etrick and the Demon, Swamp Thing. We've got Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, John Constantine. We got a Green Arrow one.
Some Dead Man, I hope.
I don't see any Dead Man yet, but I'm sure there are some Dead Man. Like Shazam's in here for sure. I don't see Dead Man. Maybe he'll probably pop in. I'm sure.
Well, I hope to God there's some vampire.
Jesus, there's two green arrows.
Vampire.
2 green arrows in here, and a Black Lightning with katana, which is strange.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's a Robin one with Solomon Grundy. It just looks like a lot of fun. So,
DC's actually always been, I would say, better than Marvel with celebrating the holidays, because they would even do that with their like Justice League, Justice Society meetups. There was always they would always have like a Thanksgiving dinner, like a Christmas dinner together and stuff like that, and some kind of like shenanigans would happen, and they would all have to team up and stuff like that. But they were always and then definitely like themed issues for, I don't know. I just remember reading old like Jeff Johns JSA, and there'd always be like a themed Thanksgiving issue, a themed Halloween issue. Yeah, it was always cool.
I wonder who usually cooked the turkey.
Right. Yeah, there was one with a turkey on the table. I remember. I think it was like an Adam Hughes cover or something. It was a gorgeous cover.
Yeah.
And it was meant to look like a Norman Rockwell painting. All of
yes, exactly.
Justice Society around the table eating a turkey dinner or whatever. And
Americana.
I even have right here by my nightstand here, or I guess it's my coffee table. I don't know what you call it. A place where I set my books. I have a Vault of Horror. It's collecting the first 5 issues.
Yeah, they've been re-releasing those and Creepy and like in trades and stuff like that. And I'm like, I never actually read. I know the covers, like Old Tales from the Crypt and all that, but I'm like, I've never read these books because I was Sam. I was Sam from the Lost Boys. I don't like horror comics.
You are missing out, Jared. I was telling Donald about this. When I would collect those EC books from the Comic-Cons. Yeah. Oh man, when you actually read them, they're great stories. I mean, characters get their comeuppances.
Well, it was
it's
all
good stuff.
pre-comic code stuff too, so like I would imagine
Yep.
it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
trust me,
now
you
as
love
I'm
it.
older, I'm like I am all in. I am all in.
Look, man, this is kind of stuff that you actually would show to your son when he's old enough, or even to Madeline for that matter, because they can learn a lot. Learn a lot about the consequences of basically, wrongdoing or sins.
Well,
and whatnot.
I loved the movie Creep Show when I grew up, and that was based on a comic, right? Wasn't that based on?
Yeah, that was. I think it might have been based somewhat on EC Comics
on
in a way.
EC stuff. Yeah,
like the look of it for sure.
Yeah. So I'm all in. I'm all in for that. I was thinking too, and I know there's been this whole thing, and we before the show, we were talking about fucking nuts speculators and all that, and we have talked about it to death about the Midnight Suns and the whole Marvel horror scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's been some kind of, they're obviously trying to hype it because they just previewed a game, like a video game that's pretty much like a Marvel Ultimate Alliance, except it's Midnight Suns related. But they're obviously trying to really set up that universe. And I was thinking the other day, I was like, the best thing they could do is a long running TV show, call it Midnight Suns, and you could have stories with all of those horror characters, whether they're teaming. I mean, like, I'll look at the basis for all this, like Supernatural. That show, how many seasons did that go? Like 1 billion?
And was it like 11, 12
15
seasons?
seasons, guys.
15 seasons.
And people loved that show. People love horror like that. And I think better than these days, at least, better than just a one-shot horror movie like a Werewolf by Night movie or a Ghost Rider movie. Do a full-on, like, not even an anthology, but like, they could tie together and stuff like that. But how cool would it be every week to see like, one episode's going to be Werewolf by Night, or one episode's going to be Ghost Rider, or Hannibal King or something like that. Like any of these other guys, Morbius, and you'd even get into the weirder characters and stuff like that, like the Night Shift and stuff like that. But like, how cool would that be to have a long running Marvel horror show that's like done well?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, something like that would be. I guess to a point, I think that maybe that's what they were intending with Hellstrom, but it just didn't work out.
But he's not even. You can't just rely on him because, I mean, let's face it. Like, I always thought he looked cool, but he wasn't like a huge character on his own in the comics. He was always a supporting guy.
Here's the thing. I think that they saw how well Lucifer did for DC.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they were like, shit, we could do that with Damian Hellstrom. Like, he's like perfect for that. And then they were like, okay, let's see, what ideas do we have? And then they just didn't want to come up with the exact same idea. So they created this different story that just, I guess, just didn't work. And it didn't come across with the audience. So it just died on the vine, pretty quickly.
Man, I tried to. I've given all the shows, for the most part, a fair shake. And that one, man, as soon as like the main guy, like as soon as Hellstrom came on, and he was just, in my opinion, terrible, I was like, I can't get behind this show if the lead is fucking god awful. Like,
that's true.
I kept thinking, I'm like, whose dick did he suck to get this? And I didn't want to think that way, but I thought that way.
Right.
Well, you know about the casting couch, Jared. You understand that there is the casting couch.
Yeah, you're saying the casting couch, not the Catholic couch, for those that are listening right now. He's saying
well, no, not if it's Hellstrom. I mean, no.
Yeah,
that would be wrong.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that'd be dirty.
Yeah.
So, we talked a little bit about Halloween and stuff, and this horror thing that's kind of sweeping the nation, so to speak, and especially in the comic book industry with all the onslaught of independent comic book companies' horror titles. There's been 15 titles, it seems like a month, easy out from all these independent companies when it comes to horror books. And I'm saying horror as in scary, not loose morals. So we then want to kind of talk a little bit about our love for comic books and what got us there and how and why. And I know, Jarrett, you were chomping at the bit to tell a little bit about what kind of got you in and what makes you love comics and how that relates to your everyday life.
Yeah, we were talking about ideas, and obviously horror was one. And then, we were talking about, saying, like, let's have a universal theme for this 200th, episode. And And to me, like I said in the beginning, like all three of us, and I think, you know, the others too, Julio and all them, like I have a genuine love for comic books. And, you know, and whether that spawned your love for toys later on, or movies later on, or all that stuff, you know, for me, and I think I could speak for the three of us, like comic books was the impetus for it all. And I've just been thinking a lot about, yeah, like where did my love for this? Because, you know, I'm 42 now. I've been collecting comics since I was 4 years old. I collected comics before I could read.
Wow.
And that was because my dad, you know, like as I kind of do with my kids, passed that on to me. And he didn't force it down my throat by any means. I remember we'd go to, and this is gonna, the more I talk these days, the more I'm like, I'm like, oh, this is what it's like when you have that transition of like, you're like, I'm getting older, because you're saying things that like just don't exist anymore. But like, he used to take me to the newsstand.
Oh yeah.
And
that's too many of those.
And on the spinner rack was the comic books. And I used to just, I didn't know Marvel from DC, from any of that. I just knew cool covers. And he would take me there and he'd be like, you want to pick out a couple comic books? And, you know, back then with their 35, 25 cents, whatever the hell they were. And like, you know, $1 at the most for us. And then I would just pick out the covers I liked. And I remember I would carry around my stacks of comics wherever I went, you know, and obviously to the point where later on when I became a collector, that wasn't possible. But I used to, like, if I was getting babysat, I'd go bring my comic stack, you know, with me. And it was all, you know, my dad just kind of shared that with me. And it wasn't even like, he just gave me a taste of it. He didn't tell me till later on. You know, he was one of those guys that had the mom throw out there. It was that thing of like, yeah, I used to have a great comic collection. Then my mom threw it out. And he would tell me what he had, and I'd cry because he was like, I had, you know, all the detective comics and the first Justice Leagues and Spider-Mans. And, you know, like everything you could imagine. I was like, oh, dear God. And and he was always very supportive of me, you know, in my comic collection. And it just grew and grew until it became my own thing. And then I think, you know, as I got older, what I realized, like, the real beauty that comics gave me, aside from just like escaping into a world or the beauty of the art or the wonderful stories, was what the lessons that I learned as a human being.
Your vocabulary improved.
Oh, my vocabulary. I learned about Greek mythology and Egyptian mythology and all kinds of different topics because of comics.
DNA. I learned about DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. It's the first time I ever heard of that stuff. It was in a comic book and in a G.I. Joe cartoon when we were making Serpentor.
Totally. Yeah. For me, it was like, I think my comics were a split between the cartoon, because I was a huge, and still am to this day, it's one of my favorites. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was on Saturday morning, followed by the Hulk. So like that, plus my dad introducing me to comic books, was my introduction to the whole world of, you know, Marvel. And then I watched Super Friends, of course, before I went to school. So I was always like a good balance of DC and Marvel. And, but I've just realized, like, the moral compass that comics can create in a true lover is like, I mean, because they're always moral lessons, you know. It's like, or it's dealing with guilt, like Spider-Man, or almost like OCD with that's what I always loved. Like, I have OCD, so like Captain America was like, when he was written by Grunwald, if you looked at those comics, he was a complete OCD head. He was like, I have to be a perfect example for America, but I will also fight for the, like, if it's hypocritical, I will not do this. So I will go against the government if I have to. I will, you know, like, he was just like, how do I make the right decision? And I was always like, yeah, I feel like that same way. And funny enough, you know, one of the big reasons I haven't been so, you know, in as many pods as I've liked, or you know, I've always been there through the beginnings of the Real Short Box, but I went back to school, and between parenting and husbanding and working and that, it was just becoming like, you know, I didn't have any time to do the live pod. So I've come on for a few, and I will be back, but I've been in school.
Yay!
But lately I'm in my last semester before I can transfer for my undergrad. And I'm taking classes I don't want to take, like statistics, and it's just been a maddening, I'm on this like final run to get through this, you know, these hurdles, this gauntlet to get to, you know, where I can just study what I want to study. And I was in a dark period. I'm talking like yesterday. I was just like, I'm down. I'm just hitting this like wall, and I'm doing good, doing really good.
And that's why we gave some words of encouragement on your Facebook page, man. So you could push through and finish.
I got a lot of great from you, from everybody, great words of encouragement. And then I got some great words of encouragement today from my friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And this is going to sound corny as fuck. I mean, it's so corny, but it was one of those ones where I'm like doing all this studying, I'm doing all this work, and I'm reading some old Spider-Man books that I just enjoy. And I see this one panel in this old Spectacular Spider-Man, and Spider-Man says, facing a challenge when the odds are against you, when your head wants to quit, but your heart says, do it anyway. And I was like, fuck, yeah, that's me. I'm fucking miserable right now. My head is saying, this all sucks, but I know my heart's going to go, do it anyway. And I just thought it was at 42 years old, collecting since I was 4 years old, to still be inspired by these characters. It's beautiful. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. So you've been in the game for almost 4 decades, Jared. That's longer than myself and Donald. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. But the funny thing is, like I said, I had him before I could read. So like there was one point where finally I'm like, oh, I could read now. I have all these comics. Cool. Let's actually read the stories.
So if I did my calculations correct, so 1983 was when you first started getting into comics.
Yeah, but that was more just like I had them, but I didn't. Okay. I just like as pretty. They might as well have been picture books for me.
Okay.
Right.
See, for me, it was 1987. That's when I first started getting into it. I basically got hand-me-down comics from my older sister.
Oh, gross.
And well, I hate to say this kind of true in a way, because they're basically mostly Richie Rich and a couple of Blue Devil comics.
Get Along Gang.
Yeah, stuff like that. And obviously she didn't take care of the books. I mean, they were mostly, when I do go back east, I think they're mostly like in BG to like fair condition. I mean, they're not well kept.
I'll never talk to your sister again.
But, your parents want to keep you out of trouble, give you something to do. So, I liked, I was going through the comics almost like for the pictures at first. And I remember the advertisements. They were very interesting. So I started watching the Star Trek cartoon on Nickelodeon. And so I noticed, there's like a Star Trek motion picture movie. And I realized it's like an old movie from 1979. And I was like, oh, okay, they have these. I didn't know they had that. So I saw the picture of the bald lady. I'd never seen a picture of a bald lady before. So it kind of freaked me out at first. I was like, what's going on here? This is this poor woman. But that was like my first encounter. And then Transformers, I had no idea. I was a big Transformers fan with the cartoon. I didn't know there was a comic book. So I went to the store, the 7-Eleven or the little Quickie Mart in my neighborhood, and I remember there was a spinner rack, and I saw Transformers. I was like, oh, there's a Transformers comic? Wow, this is cool. And then I saw an Iron Man comic on top of that, and I thought Iron Man was a black man. I didn't know that. I didn't know that Rhodey was just filling in at the time. It's like, oh, wow, this is awesome. This black man is, he basically has technology. He has like this robotic suit. Oh, man, I got to get this.
Kevin, really quickly, speak to the fact that, I mean, it's hard for Jarrett and I to kind of relate to this because we're both pretty white dudes. And
extremely.
I thought Jarrett was half Filipino.
Albino Filipino.
We grew up with predominantly white characters in comic books. How special is it when you were younger to find a character like Rhodey, James Rhodes, that that's a black man, that's a positive influence, that's a comic book character? Was it?
Oh, it was amazing.
Was it actually seminal for you?
It was because obviously, unfortunately, the stereotypes out there of how black men in particular are characterized, and just seeing African American black gentleman is using technology, if he was building it or doing something with it in a positive way and just showing his intelligence, it was like, it's very inspirational, especially at the time I still am, a nerdy type of guy anyway. I like to read books and learn new things and so forth and so on. So I'm into the academic stuff and intellectual stuff. So when I saw that, it really did inspire me. It really did touch me. And then of course I found out about John Stewart as one of the Green Lanterns, and I learned about all these other great characters, Black Panther. So when you see that, it's just like, wow, okay, this is amazing. It can take you places and inspire you to do better with your life, to want to achieve great things. And that's one thing that's so special about comic books. I think we can all agree. It gives you a path to open up your imagination, to think about the possibilities, to make the impossible possible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. For me, when I was a kid, I, my sisters, again, just like you, Kevin, my sisters had a couple comic books that they didn't care about, and that was just in a bookshelf in the kitchen. And one of them was the A-Team. I think it was issue 2 or 3. It was where B.A. Baracus, Mr. T, was fighting a sumo wrestler.
I know that cover. I had that book. I know exactly what you're talking about. Go on. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a beautiful cover, and it really draws your attention. So naturally, I loved the A-Team growing up because, I had the comic book and it was on TV. And my sisters also had, believe it or not, they had a Ted Kord Blue Beetle comic. It was a Modern Comic Publications reprint, issue 3 with the Mad Men all over the cover. They had drawn on it in pen and, done circles and squiggles. Didn't try to draw on the lines or put any faces on anybody. Just graffitied the shit out of it with squiggle lines and circles and dumbass shit. I just, so many loving, like, great moments. I remember when I was a kid, like Planet Terry, I just picked up a CGC 9/6 of issue 1 of Planet Terry. And it's a cartoon book.
That's right.
And that was one in like a 3 or 4 pack that my parents bought me when we went on our first family vacation in Florida. And it was a Winn-Dixie that we went to, and I found it on a spinner rack in like a pack. And I talked my parents into buying it for me and read it while I was, in the back seat and we were driving and stuff on vacation down there. And so that stuck with me all these years. And now as an adult, I was like, wow, I would like to have that first issue because that was a really fun moment for me, So we buy into our nostalgia very deeply when we get older because we get more sentimental. The older we get, I feel like the more sentimental we really do get.
It's so true, especially when you hear like a song from like the 80s or 90s, especially the 90s where we're like teenagers and whatnot, or when you're in your college. It does take you back. You start getting sentimental. You start remembering what you're doing during that moment. It's very interesting.
Oh, dude, literally this episode, you said that A-Team book, and I was like, that was one of the books I had in just like my pile of books because I was like, oh, I watched the A-Team and they made a comic book. Oh, and he's fighting a sumo wrestler. That's fucking awesome. Like, I'm getting that book. And that's how I would get books at that age. It was like the cover and what I knew from like a TV show or something.
Yep, how you related it. Yeah. So that was always, there was always this relatability when we were younger and stuff. And or if your friend had it, you had to have it.
I got a good question for both of you, and I'll answer myself as well. What was your first that you can remember wall book you ever got? Because when you went to the comic shops when you were a kid, that was like when you went to a real comic shop, not like 7-Eleven or anything like that. The cool thing was like you'd be like, wow, the books on the wall, these like sacred tomes of like older books, and like. The main thing was they're more than the $1.25 books. Like, what was Donald? You go first. What was your first wall book you remember getting or being able to purchase?
My memory is pretty shit a lot of times, and I can that too. To drinking in my 30s, but I would say what I can remember is I didn't buy too many wall books because most of the shops I went to didn't have wall books. They just had them in the bins, right? So when I went to a shop in Cranberry, Pennsylvania, because I was dating this girl there, and mind you, that's an hour and 45 from where I lived, but I lived in such a small town. It was really like, no offense to the ladies, but like they were either taken or the quality of available women was not to my
your specifications.
I just see some small town gas station worker going like, you're looking for a lady, huh? You want to go down to Cranberry, Pennsylvania. You want to go down that road to go find a nice looking fine
They
lady.
Got them juicy women there in Cranberry.
Now, wait a minute. You said you live not too far from some of those Amish country towns. So, there's some fine looking Amish ladies. So I'm sure I didn't try to do that.
to be honest, I just didn't know how to date them. I didn't know how I could relate to them. If I could be like, this is a talking picture box, and they might go, holy shit.
I'm moving in with you now.
Right. She's a goddamn wizard. I didn't want to, freak them out or anything. So I went the other way instead. I went to the bigger city. I went to Pittsburgh, and just outside of Pittsburgh is Cranberry. So I was dating this girl that lived in Pittsburgh, but for a while, then she moved in with her aunt in Cranberry. So there was a shop there that I would go to when I would stop off and visit her. And they had a Tick #1. It was the white cover. And I think they had it for $40. And I would look at it every time I stopped, and I'd buy something cheaper or something else. And then one day I just said, you know what? I love the Tick. I love this book. This is something that you don't see every day on, a wall or anything. And so I went up to the counter and I said, I'll take that Tick book on the wall up there. And they were like, oh, big spender, huh? Oh, look at that. Wow. And then, they pulled it off the wall and I went home with it and, went to bed with it, had a great night, woke up the next day.
That doesn't sound right the way you said that.
Yeah. Well,
woke up, it was still covered in white.
Yeah, still white pages.
Off-white pages, I bet.
Cream to off-white pages, Kevin. So yeah, that would probably be my first wall book. Would be Tick #1 that I can remember.
That's awesome, Kevin.
For me, I'm trying to think about this because my comic shop, interesting, I think I've told you guys, was the comic shop that the Wizard magazine was based out of.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Wizards, Comics, and Cards in Nanuet, New York. So I think the first one I may have pulled off may have been the Infinity Gauntlet issue #1.
Okay.
Because in 91, early 92, and going to 1992, it was a hot series, the Infinity Gauntlet series, and of course the Infinity War series that came out the following year. So I believe that might have been the first wall book I may have requested to take off the wall, and they're probably charging maybe $15-20 or something like that for it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I also remember, going through, the old back issues and seeing some old Captain Marvel books from the 60s where he was wearing that green grayish outfit.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I was confused at first. I'm like, because I actually got 2 books for Christmas that I was really wanted. One was the History of Marvel, and it came out about 30 years ago, actually. It was like 1991, I think, when that one came out. And I remember Les Daniels, I think that was his name, or not. Les Daniels, that was his name, was the name of the author. And I think later on he did a DC history book. But basically, I loved reading about history, about anything. Is
that the one with Spider-Man on the cover?
Yes.
I had
exactly.
That book. Yep, yeah, I remember that.
Yep. So there was that one. DC came up with one a couple years later. I actually did a book report on the Marvel book, interestingly enough. Because I was so into it. I was learning about the history of Marvel, how it was Timely Comics at first, and then became Atlas. So I was I was so fascinated. But I was confused. I remember in that book, it had pictures of Captain Marvel. There's one reason that green, grayish outfit. And there's the other one where he's in that blue, red, gold star in his chest. I'm like, wait, it doesn't make any sense.
Psychedelic,
Yeah, why does he look so different? I saw Gene Colan did the original one and Jim Starlin did this one. I'm like, what? I don't get it. But, I started doing my research and figured out why that was and the power
of the same guy.
Yeah, it's the same guy. So I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, fascinating. What about you, Donald? Not Donald, Jared, what about you? What was the first wall book that you remember pulling off the wall for purchase?
Mine is a 2-part because it was the same place, but one was a gift of like wall books that I saw on the wall and that I got for Christmas. And then one was the one I got for myself. Like I said, like, sir, take that off the goddamn wall. Untape that, unpin it. But they were both from the same comic shop. My local comic shop in San Rafael, California, was Ancient Dragon. It was called.
Cool.
And all owned by the like quietest nerd guys who like the main guy owned it was like this like anorexic version of the comic book guy. Like he was like ponytail, glasses, but quiet and he was nice. He was just super quiet and nerdy. So for Christmas one year or a birthday, my dad got me, and I remember because I saw them on the wall, and I was right when I got into X-Men, and he got me a X-Men 37 and X-Men 40, which were just 2 random old X-Men books, but I was just like, I just remember it was my first books. Like, I'm like, these are old books, and it's like, it's not Wolverine. It's like the guys in the blue costumes. So it was like,
and Beast
Cyclops
doesn't look like Beast.
It doesn't look like Beast, and like Angel, like they're like, why are they wearing these costumes? And I thought those costumes were cool too, but I was like, weird. Like the issue 40 was like the Frankenstein cover, and I was like, I just remember thinking like they're cool. Like I just liked having them. But the first book that I remember going in and going like, I saved my money, or I got my allowance, or like some reason I had the money to get it. It was probably like $20, but it was amazing. I was a huge Sandman fan, and I love Sandman still, and obviously Spider-Man fan too. And they had an amazing Spider-Man 19, and it had like all this stuff going on in the cover, like Spider-Man swinging through the cover, and Sandman, and the Enforcers, and Human Torch was in it, and I was just like, I want that book so bad. And I remember just going and buying it and just like cherishing that book. One of the few books I'm like, God damn, when I sold my collection my first time, like
you let it go? Oh no.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean I decimated my first collection aside from a couple books that I saved, but like in rebuilding though, like there's so many books I've gotten that were like the nostalgia of like, I remember how much that book, and some of them aren't even expensive. They're just like, I remember how much that book or that cover made me happy,
Hey guys, it's Bouncer. Now listen, I know that me and Donald got off on the wrong foot. But since then, we've let bygones be bygones. We sat down, we had a few beers, we talked things out, and we're good now. I just wanted to stop by, congratulate you guys on your 200th episode. Can't wait to get back on there with you guys, and here's to many more.
Hey, Shabazz here, long-time listener. Just wanted to say congrats to the Real Short Box podcast on your 200th episode. You guys are one of my favorite podcasts out there in terms of comic books, and you guys have been in the game a long time, so long that you might want to consider changing your name to the Real Long Box podcast.
But the SmackDowns were fun because I remember just literally trying to map out, because you and Donald would pick some really solid good ones. So I'd be like, okay, you guys are going to do these like really good big characters. I'm going to do some weird random shit. Like I remember
the Grand Lake Avengers or something like that. Great Lake Avengers.
The Great Lake Avengers versus the Legion of Substitute Heroes. and then I think another one was Alpha Flight versus the Soviet Super Soldiers. I was like,
yes.
Yeah. But it was so fun how we would like all three of us for our battles would like map out like, and then like it was literally telling some like D&D story, some Dungeon Master shit of like, and you think that's gonna happen, but this is gonna happen.
Oh yeah, especially all the crazy plot twists we would come up with.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. A lot of fun. I love the SmackDowns. We did the superhero team. Remember that there was one where I kind of accidentally created the what was it, the Red Goblin, because
that's true.
We had talked about it before, and I was like, well, what if then the Green Goblin, Venom, the symbiote that was on Venom jumps on Norman Oswald, and I said then we get a Venomized Green Goblin.
And somebody listened, decided to take that idea and not pay a royalty to us.
Possibly, or it's such a popular character, both of them, that I'm sure we're not the only ones to have thought that, you know what I mean? So that can be possible. Now, at the time when I was creating, we were all creating this character called the Scarlet Beetle.
Oh yeah.
And we were going to call it the Red Beetle. And we were at a comic book convention, and we were with an artist, and he was drawing it out, and we were all talking about it. That's suspect as shit for DC Comics then to come in about 6 months later have a character in the comic books called the Red Beetle that looks exactly like our character, even down to the color of the skin of like the ethnic background of the character was exactly the same as what we designed it as. It was just crazy. So
I sense a conspiracy.
That one, obviously somebody saw and did that and took our idea. But this I could see somebody else doing, and just having a fun time. But yeah, I mean, we did
or there's the how much I've hyped the Fool Killer, and then Jessica Jones uses him, and I don't even watch the season because it was just so bad.
How weird is that, right? Like, no one knew who the Fool Killer was. I didn't even know who the Fool Killer was, Jarrett. And you were so adamant that this character was so cool. You kept talking about it. And I went out and I bought the first appearance. I bought the miniseries from Marvel. I bought the Max series from Marvel. I bought, so many comic books. The newest one that they did a few years back. I have almost all of the Fool Killer issues, all the appearances, everything, just because you introduced that character to me. And I can guarantee you somebody listening was like, that's a great idea. I need to bring that character in. And they started to write it in.
Oh God, oh man, I couldn't even, like, when I was like, oh, they're using the Fool Killer, I was like, cool. And then I started reading about it, and then I started watching it. I was like, oh, they're making him just a weird guy, and he's not going to do any of the cool stuff that the actual Fool Killer does. And you guys, I gave it to you. I wrote the script for you, and you just didn't
use it.
Come on. No. I still think eventually, somewhere, because they're obviously getting to the point where they're going to start, I'll be 90 and they'll finally do like the cool 90s mini series, which I'm like, all you have to do is it's Marvel Taxi Driver, and it's awesome. And just give a guy who's got nothing to lose and he wants to clean up the street, especially right now with how, like, what we just went through with the last election and the pandemic, of like how people showed their true colors and blah blah blah. Like, who doesn't want to see a movie where a guy just has a gun that can just disintegrate people?
Right.
Just disintegrate fools, like.
And and I'm going to tell you, like, a lot of people, we started out in our first podcast doing the history of Eclipse Comics. I believe was our first ever podcast that we did.
That's correct.
And after that, we did some other histories. Our EC Comics one is a very popular one, and our
Malibu.
most popular, is Malibu Comics. Both the video of it, where we interviewed the writers, because we did the Malibu audio podcast, the history of. They found us, and they liked it, and they invited us to interview them, and then we interviewed them, and then recently, a author that writes a comic book for, I think, Scout Comics or one of those smaller companies, he reached out to us and said, hey, I want to be on the show. I really like it. I saw your episode of Malibu comic books. I listened to it and then watched it, and I really liked it. And I wondered if I could be on. And that's so cool that little old us, had some sway in things, and it somehow worked out magically that we, just because of one podcast that we did a long ass time ago, people keep finding us, and we keep getting interviews and fun stories and things with people just because of that,
Yeah. Thank the algorithms.
Right. And I think it's important to note that we're almost, we're basically a family. I can't argue that we're not. I love you guys like brothers. I do anything for you.
Absolutely. We're like triplets.
And we always have the best of times when we're together, and it's great to be back for this episode. And I'm so thankful for everybody that's listened to this episode. We're going to have to wrap it up here in about a minute or two. But I just want to say again, thank you, everybody. Because of this 200th episode, we're doing something very special. And we haven't announced the winner yet. So you still have time to be in on this. I think it's going to be going for another week, where we are basically, we have a slabbed comic book. It's a CBCS graded, like I think a 9.2 or 9.4, something like that. Spawn number 12 from, I think, 1993, if I recall the year.
Sounds about right.
And it's the cool cover with the Spawn logo on it, part of it anyway. And it's a black cover, the spine, no spine ticks. It looks really sharp, really nice. And that's going to be given away. We're going to send it to whoever wins. It's that. And so, definitely like us on Instagram. Follow the posts that we have up about the Spawn comic book. Share and follow us. Tag 2 of your friends. That's really all you have to do. Or if you're not wanting to do that, just comment on our YouTube page or on the Apple Podcast page. You can comment there as well, and we'll take your comments and we'll take down your name, and we're going to do one of those virtual wheel things that we do, and we'll put your name in, and if you win, we'll contact you and let you know. It's a super exciting thing that we're doing for our special 200th episode. We're giving away a slabbed comic, guys, a Spawn, which is very hot right now.
Absolutely, it's on fire.
Hi guys, I didn't know you were here. I'm Todd McFarlane, and I created Spawn.
Oh, hey.
Mr. McFarlane.
I'm just sitting here, no shirt, leather jacket, just making some McFarlane toys, and things get really dark sometimes for me, but this is a light in the tunnel of Spawn, and I just want to say I think it's really great that you guys are doing that. I'm gonna go back to making my toys.
Oh, wow. I hope you invite us to the 30th anniversary of Image Comics next year, sir. I really appreciate it.
I'm Todd McFarlane, and I created Spawn.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Thank you, Todd, creator of Spawn, the Spawn of Todd McFarlane, I guess, in more ways than one. We appreciate that. So, yes. Wow, just guest stars galore today. Wow. This is crazy.
Yeah, he just showed up in my Prius. That was weird.
I know. That's kind of creepy, actually. Yeah. I just rolls up into your Prius.
Well, also, he wasn't kidding. He actually had a no shirt, but he still had his cool leather jacket on.
Oh man, these Canadians are something else, aren't they?
In the way he was carving the toy, weirdly enough, it was with his teeth. So
yeah.
Not sure how that works, but hey, whatever. Whatever works. Any last minute things, last moments you guys want to say or share before we wrap this up?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I hope this is 200. Let's go for another 200, and let's get more people to come and be a part of the brother and sisterhood of the Real Short Box.
Yeah,
and I just want to say I love you all out there. I love both of you too. It's been a blast. And I'm looking forward to finishing this fucking semester and being able to be back in full blast and be just raining down obscure comic stories that I think you should all read.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That. I've been holding back on some ideas, Jared, until you come back. So I got some exciting ideas that I want to share with you three once you're back into the full time.
Really quickly, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We are The Real Short Box on all of those. You can find us on all podcast platforms, basically. We're on Apple, Spotify. We're on Amazon. We are on iHeartRadio. You name it, we're on it. You can also find our live podcast every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time on the Rumble Spoon Productions YouTube page. And with that, if we don't see you out and about anytime soon, hopefully someday,
we'll see you at the attractive, beautiful, colorful, delightful, and always elegant
comic book shop.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks
Good night.
Again. Happy 200.
200.
This has been The Real Short Box. We'll see you at the comic shop. Thanks for listening.